Bonjour, je m'appelle Juan. Bienvenue sur le podcast.
Hey, perfecto. Gracias, Juan. Y voy a hablar un poquito porque necesito probar. Probar. Que puedo hablar un poquito también.
Un poquito también. And for those of you playing at home, that was a little bit of a French translation of G'day, name's Juan. Welcome to the
Direct
podcast.
translation to g'day.
G'day, yeah, direct translation.
Yeah, that's what they actually say in French all the
Today
time.
we got...
I also said I just needed to speak a bit of Spanish to prove I can.
Yeah.
Screw it up.
I just thought people would know what that means, but yeah. And you also got it wrong, so I expected that, but...
To be fair, I have never once said I'm fluent. So
That's true.
I do
That's
not.
true. No one would believe it anyway. So.
No, not a lie I could get away with.
Episode 7 is learning a new language. Again, sponsored by Princess today. Mm-hmm. Princess Cake. Keeping me going every day.
That's it.
We're also here in this sweatbox. If you ever look at the video of us doing our podcast of Mere Mortals, this room is hot.
We're coming into mid spring, getting into summer.
If I check my G-Shock and I check the temperature,
Yeah.
it is...
First of all, which way is north?
32.9 degrees on the G-Shock watch.
Really?
So,
Damn,
yeah,
that
it is.
actually
There
is
is a
quite
warm.
hot.
So, let's get started. Why? I think this one came from you, actually, today's episode. Learning a new language.
Yeah.
Why? Obviously, the fact is, you learned a new language over the last couple of years, being Spanish.
For sure. Something we could both talk about as well, because I know you're bilingual. Mm-hmm. And it's a good one as well because your experience of learning a new language was radically different from me because you did it in childhood, so that has like
It's
such
a completely different thing. Exactly.
different thing.
Yeah.
And you've dabbled with French and some other languages as well.
Exactly.
So
Poorly, but...
poorly, yeah.
And we can talk into those things.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
And I think I wanted to get into it again today with setting out a little bit of that structure, a bit of a framework on actually answering the question of how to learn a new language.
Yeah.
Then we'll probably talk into our successes, failures, learnings, all the little good things.
First of all, do you have a mere mortal moment from this week?
I don't actually. I actually don't.
No?
I even thought about it if I had anything that happened particularly.
Yeah.
Not really. I was pretty busy this week actually with everything else. So they didn't really come about one. Given the fact my mere mortal moment this week is that I decided after last week's podcast that I was going to take some time off from the gym.
Yeah.
I lasted 2 days. 2 days. And I made it back. Anyone who heard me over those 2 days heard me complain the fact that I couldn't go to the gym.
Yeah.
Which, to some people sounds a little bit nuts. It was, but I'm also nuts.
Yeah.
So that's just what happens.
True.
That was my mere mortal moment, I believe.
Yeah, I remember like on the podcast you're saying, we trying to call me out saying you should take a week off, Kyrin. And
I tried.
Like,
I failed.
I'm taking some time off. I was like, oh, good to hear, Juan. How's that going? Yeah, it's been 2 days and I'm back into it. Okay. Very good. All right, I had one. I was getting frustrated with a couple of things this week, and they're things I know about, just a sort of constant recurring problem. It's probably a bit too personal to talk about, but it's a constant problem that's occurring, and I know about it, but I can still get frustrated by it, which is not a good thing. I want to have a bit more control with regards to how I act to it, especially because it is a recurring problem. And one of the things that I sort of took a step back and was like, okay, why am I getting frustrated by this?
Yep.
And one of the controls I had in place was actually doing a bit of meditation during the day, getting my mindset a bit more focused, expressing some gratitude, thinking a lot more of how I'm approaching my day, approaching my week, approaching my month, year, life. And so I wasn't doing the meditation sort of correctly. I was sort of getting a bit busy, doing lots of things, and so sort of neglecting that little basis of what I normally do in the morning. And that, as we've talked before, that morning routine is super critical. It sets your day up really correctly, and it's a proven strategy for me that it works. But I was just neglecting doing that. Yeah. So trying to get back into that now and sort of fix up how I was approaching that problem I was having.
Yeah. No, cool. It was good to hear.
Yeah. Right. So that was my moment.
Good. So, learning a new language. I've got a couple of thoughts here. I'm not sure if you've got thoughts on how to actually do it. I want to ask you how you did it specifically with Spanish.
Yeah.
But I want to broaden it up first. Talk a little bit about it in generalistic sense.
Yeah.
Get some input from you.
Yeah.
Once I go through that, then we'll sort of start talking into it.
First thing I had was the fundamentals, I feel, of learning a new language.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So I guess what would you call the fundamentals then?
So there's 4 things I really found. Reading, writing, listening, and speaking.
Yep.
And I'll put it in terms of ease when you're first doing it, or what I personally have found.
Yep.
My girlfriend Andrea as well, can speak 4 languages and sort of semi-learning a 5th. So she can speak, she started off with Spanish, learned English in a bilingual school in Colombia, learned French sort of like for fun in that school as one of those classes as well.
Yep.
And then Italian. And now she's dabbling in Latin. So, okay. Good luck with that.
A very handy language to have.
But yeah, her level in all of those languages is above my Spanish. So she's pretty good at it. And I was talking with her about this as well and saying, like, what would you say are the fundamentals? And they lined up pretty closely with what I had. So reading is probably the easiest, I found, because you have the time, you get your sort of basic, however you want to do your first learning of the language. You get some, new words in your mind, and you might be just doing some rote memorization.
Yep.
Cat is gato, dog is perro, those sort of things. And then you can potentially just read things on, Duolingo. You can do it on websites, books, prints, whatever you want. And you've just got the time. Like, there's no time pressure when you're reading something because it's just you and the object.
Yep.
So I put reading as probably the first one.
Yep.
As terms of ease. Listening, then after that, you can hear. Obviously, you're going to have people, different varying levels of vocabulary with people. Have the people from the street who talk really fast and use guttural language, and you have no idea what they're saying. And then totally different, like an old lady who speaks with a really slow cadence. Yeah. And you can understand that.
So I guess guttural language you mean by the fact of, Australian terms, if someone said g'day, is a guttural term to someone who is coming up, not knowing the English language.
For sure. Or even like, straight up just lots of swearing. I would love to see Andrea go to the mines and meet some of the people who I used to work with, because the amount of swearing was just unreal, and you pick it up as well. It took me probably like a good year to get
back off it.
Stop dropping those F-bombs
as like regular sentences.
Well, that was how you construct a sentence in the mines. Like you start off with 2 F-bombs at the start, 2 at the end, a couple sprinkled in the middle, and then you think of what do you want to say? I am going over there. Oh, fuck, I'm going over fucking there. Fuck. It's like, whoa, okay. After that, I had writing. Writing just takes a bit more out of you because you need to sort of, once again, you don't have the time pressure, but forming the sentence structure and I suppose with reading and listening, those are things coming in, but writing something you're putting out. Yep. So that's a bit more harder, and then speaking, of course, is going to be the hardest, just because you've got that time constraint. You're speaking with someone, you can't take 5 minutes to construct. I'm going over there. Yeah. So I sort of have those as the fundamentals of learning a language. Yep. Obviously, you can get into the nitty gritty of vocabulary, grammar, sentence structure, blah 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 blah.
Yeah. Well, and the way I was going to talk about it was, when we're talking about learning a new language, there's varying levels to that. So there's learning a language to just know basics. Like if you're going to Japan, like when we did, and you just want to learn to say hello, goodbye, some numbers, sorry, my apologies, I've crashed into whatever. Sorry for being a nuisance. Yeah. Basics. You can say that if that's the way you want to learn a new language, then that's where I've sort of sequentially stepped this out, because one of the first things that I would recommend people, if you're thinking of that level of language, would be to learn the common phrases. So French, bonjour, au revoir, goodbye, au revoir, goodbye, all similar, that and the pronunciation. that you would just stay out those common phrases. You wouldn't go beyond that level. And that's where I'd say that that's the first level of people wanting to learn a new language. And that, from your fundamentals, would be reading and speaking and perhaps listening. So it'd be just those sort of basic things that would be there.
Yep.
And people could consider that as the first stage. What I have in the next one is, there's, when I'm talking common phrases, it's both phrases and numbers or time as well.
Yeah, yep.
But then the next one from there would be to learn the vocabulary. And the way, at least I thought about it, was thinking about the common 100 words, most commonly used sort of 100 words.
Yeah, that's a good way.
And then starting to bring that together into actual use. So in Spanish for you, it would have been things like house, car, so
the
casa,
street.
carro, street, calle. So all those really, really commonly used words.
Yeah.
And then starting to string things together. So when you can say the house is blue, the car is blue, those sort of things. So you have a variety of at least, portabilities of words that you can start bringing into sentences you already know inside that conversation. Then beyond that would be then actually the pronunciation of those extensive words. So being able to string those together and then understanding what people are saying back. Yeah. And I think that's where I see the boundary on learning a new language. There's one thing about learning a language for knowing the words and speaking it. That's one level. But going into the conversational realm, that's the next level of learning a language. I think people need to...
That's a big jump.
And I think that's where people need to understand what is learning a language and what level you need it to be. Because someone who's from Spanish speaking, so Andrea would probably know this as well, to pick up French and Italian, it's actually quite simple.
Yeah.
And in fact, or Portuguese. And with very little effort, we can actually read that quite easily.
Yeah.
We'd probably get maybe, a word here or there wrong in a sentence. But generally, we can understand what's going on with very little experience in it.
Yeah.
But that is, and you could say the language in terms of just knowing the fact that you can read it or speaking a couple of words, or you're saying ichi ni sanchi goroku for Japanese. But being a conversational language, that's entirely different because, you went, to use an example, you went from beyond I just want to learn Spanish and being able to say, if someone pointed to a house, you could say, oh, casa.
Yeah.
You went to beyond to be like, okay, I want to be having a conversation with someone and be a little bit more, intuitive in that sense. I think that's where that goes into the next level. And I think at that point, yes, you can, as you were saying, there's Duolingo. There's a couple here that I've also got. Says, if people are looking for applications or apps, Duolingo, Anki, Memrise, or Babbel. There's a couple of ones that I've also used before in the past, and they're actually quite good. Duolingo, I think, is probably the best, to be honest.
Yeah, and those are all across multiple languages.
Yes, exactly. And I think for learning a new language, if you want to go to that next stage, and we're gonna stay at that point, because if you're listening to this and you think learning a new language, I think it means being at a conversational level.
Yeah.
The things I really noted down was there's really there's no real secrets or shortcuts. You really have to just put the effort in with a lot of it. And I was saying, some of the things I listed down was you really need to, one, immerse yourself in the language. So when you're trying to get to that conversational level, I think as you found out, if you're reading and you're talking about it, you've got to be doing it almost daily and talking to people, forcing yourself to be able to talk about it to start really learning. And I think you found that in Argentina. I think it was that you were sort of sharing a little bit earlier. But, I also noted down the whole, watching, listening, reading, and writing in your chosen language as well, as in trying to do that a lot more often. And from what you did, the other one that said, general method, actually visit the country of that language, said language that you want to get conversational as to force you to actually speak that. But I was going to, sort of going through that, what I wanted to ask you was, I think it was Argentina where you transitioned from maybe just knowing. So I guess there's a difference. There's knowing a language.
Yeah.
And then there's conversing in the language. And I think it was Argentina where you made that transition.
Definitely.
So do you want, I guess I'd want to hear the story of do you know when you made that transition? Can you sort of...
Yeah, I'll give my story, I guess, and my overview of how and why. Because that'll sort of get into what I found and some of the mistakes I made.
Yep.
So when I was 15, 16, read this book of a guy who traveled through South America and sort of really inspired me. So
Do you know what the name of that book was?
Dead Bat in Paraguay by Rushfi.
Okay.
Yeah. And it was sort of like he's like at the time, he was like a pickup artist. So he was going there and sort of trying to sleep with girls in these countries. And it was pretty funny because he struggled. Like, he could not do it at all. You know, classic. It's not really an inspirational story in the sense of, like, you read it and you're like, I want to do exactly like that, because basically it's a whole story of him getting rejected by all these women, learning Spanish but struggling a shitload, and a bit of Portuguese as well when he went to Brazil. He got some sort of like bacterial gut infection. And so like the whole time, like, he's trying to pick up girls, and then he's got a couple of stories of like, he'll go out, he'll be speaking to a girl, things are going real good, and then he's like, oh shit, I've got diarrhea, and runs off to the bathroom and has like explosive diarrhea. So it's not like a story of like, you know, showing all the good parts. This is amazing. Like, I went to Machu Picchu and I did this and I had this amazing interaction.
Yeah, just a very raw reality of like what he experienced. Okay.
The book title is when he woke up one day in a hostel, and there was a dead bat next to him on his pillow, which had, you know, just died in the evening. So he's like freaking out that he's got rabies or something. You know. So it was a real. I felt it was a really real, raw, honest story, and that's what really drew me into it. I didn't particularly want to experience a lot of those things.
The dead bat by your pillow.
Yeah. Well, I was actually more concerned about the gut infection, because it affected him long after that. Like, he couldn't eat certain types of meats. He had real severe issues for like years afterwards.
Yeah, wow, okay.
So that sort of like made me go, oh shit, like I really don't want to do that.
But okay, so that was the...
So that's the inspiration.
That was the inspiration.
It took me about 10 years till I was personally ready to go. If you are 18 years old and can travel to a new place not knowing the language, like, kudos to you. That is brave.
Well, and what you're saying here is not you're not brave as in if you're going there for 2 weeks for a holiday. You're talking go there for like an extended period of time.
I'd say even if you're just going for a short one, I personally would not have been able to do that. That would have freaked me out way too much. But yeah, I suppose going long term as well. That's a different kettle of fish. You meet the people there. They have very different mindsets. Who are going like. I need to
confirm, but I believe the word is vagabonding. But continue with your chat.
Vagabonding. Vagabond.
Yeah.
With a V.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's sort of like a nomadic traveler, I think. A vagabond. Anywho, so it was probably when I was in uni. So it would have been maybe like 4 years before I actually started, before I went on my travel, that I actually started to learn Spanish. So I did 1 year where it was my last year of uni, where I studied fairly decently. I was probably doing about 30 minutes a day, minus a couple of weeks out of the year for exams and stuff, where I was totally swamped.
Yeah.
And for that, I was using the Pimsleur program, which is basically a series of recorded audios. And this really got me into the speaking and listening part straight away, because it's audios. This is probably my first step before podcasts, was listening to audios in this sort of manner. 30-minute sessions, and they'll go through the real basics. And it's a response-driven one. So they'll say something and then leave a little gap, and you're meant to respond out loud to it.
Right, okay.
So this nailed a bunch of things. It helped me with my pronunciation right off the bat. So I wasn't dicking around saying stupid things. And Spanish is phonetic, so as it's spelt, that's how you say it. There's only a very couple slight things where the sound of the letter changes. Yeah. But it's pretty much you can read it and know exactly how to say it. Yeah.
So to give you an example of how English is not phonetic, is Pacific Ocean. Yeah. And there's 3 C's in Pacific Ocean, and all of them are said differently.
Oh, really?
Pacific Ocean.
That's right. Good. Yeah. Nice. Damn English. After speaking, like, learning a bit of Spanish, I've realized, like, oh yeah, English has some real nasty stuff.
Oh, it does. Yeah.
I always loved the two and two. So
Yeah.
it's like all said the same, but different spelling, different meanings.
Yeah.
Like, two is the number two is in too much, and two is
Yeah,
the
or like
verb.
noise and noise. So, there's noises in like sound, and then noise is like an Australian, like very good.
Yeah. Noise. I'm not sure about that one, but so I did about a year's worth, and then I started work, and I couldn't keep it up, man. The work, the schedule of work, and then also I knew that I didn't want to start working and then just completely quit this company straight away. There was sort of that, not pressure, but the idea that I wanted to work for it to show I could be a solid worker. And so I took pretty much a 2 to 3 year break, complete break, no Spanish.
Yep.
Not the best idea, considering my boss was Colombian. I worked with 2 or 3 other Colombian, South Americans. There was another Colombian, a Peruvian, and I think an Ecuadorian.
Yeah, okay.
All in my workplace.
So there was opportunity to
There was
continue
plenty
the
of
Spanish.
opportunity, which is rare to get in Mackay, so sort of like central Queensland.
Yeah.
That's I had the chance, but I didn't.
Yep.
But I didn't have the motivation right then. I quit work, and then I had about a year's worth of time before I actually left. And that's where I was doing another sort of 30 minutes a day.
Yep.
So I probably had a decent amount, probably a lot more than most people who could go there straight away, unless they have, their fathers or some sort of part of their extended family has some Spanish or South American roots.
Yep.
And they know a bit of that. But me just being a total gringo, which is their word for foreigner. I thought I had a decent moment, like a decent amount of Spanish.
Yep.
Going there, and then I arrived. So I got off the plane, was super excited. It was actually a cool moment landing and being like, oh shit, I'm here right now. But it was really in control as well. It wasn't like bouncing off the wall, going, whoa, looking at some sort of South American passing, whoa, Chilean. No, I was in control. But I was like, okay, if I'm going to do this backpacking stuff, I'm going to do it right. So I'm not going to take a taxi from the airport to the hostel. I'm going to do this proper backpacking,
Take a bus,
take a train, do whatever I can. The cheapest way to get there, that's the way to go. So
perfect backpacker.
In the airport, I managed to find out the rough route I was meant to take. I got on a bus, and then the bus took me to a subway terminal, and then from the subway, I was meant to go in from there.
Yep.
And the bus route, that was pretty easy. Got off, was just looking out the windows at the new scenery and stuff. That was pretty cool. And then I arrived in the afternoon, and so when I was getting into the subway, it was peak hour. And so all I had to do was buy like a card, put some money on it, and then it's just a simple beep on, beep off sort of thing. And that was the moment where I was like, oh shit, I need to learn Spanish. Because I was trying to speak with this lady, and she was just saying a couple of words, but the noise all around me, a massive line started to back up of people who were trying to recharge their cards. So I'm just freaking out. And that's when it was sort of just like, okay, here's some money.
Here's money.
Like, money solves this issue. So I just fed her money until she realized, like, okay, this guy's an idiot. Did something and got the card, and it worked. But that was the first moment where I was.
So that's the difference between knowing a language and
conversing
with the language.
And that's the thing. I thinking back, I knew enough words and had enough vocabulary, and not particularly practice speaking to another, like conversing in it, but I knew enough and had heard enough to be able to, if it was a calm situation, just me and her, I'm sure I could have done it. But the context of the scenario is just like, oh shit.
Like a real world scenario. That's where it's like, okay, it's not everything's like absolutely perfect. You got ample time. You can hear everyone.
And it's you can learn the words for getting onto a subway. I'm sure there's programs that will say like, and this will help you, with this part of traveling. But people can just use a different word as they do in English.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna. Can you pass me the money, or here, take your money? Exactly the same thing, but completely different words.
Yeah, it goes from just the straight narrative of what you learn to, well, there's 25 variations on how this actually can occur. And you got to just know what you can use to make it work out.
And then there's the the physical body language that's happening, which is a huge part of communicating.
Yeah.
And I noticed for a long time, and still do, I sometimes struggle to look the other person in the eye while speaking Spanish, like, because it's like too much info is coming in, so I sort of need to turn away, look out here, speak a little bit, and then can look back. Whereas in English, I'm much more comfortable.
Yeah, like because like you still
I just don't like to because you're ugly as shit. All fun and games, man.
I believe I have some messages that disprove this.
After that, I did make a lot of rapid progress. So I spent 1 month in Chile, then 2 in Argentina. And like you said, by the end of that, I was a lot more comfortable in speaking. I probably had like a couple conversations that went for about an hour and a half, where I'd still stumble on words and trip up, but I got the whole gist of the conversation. Yeah. Which before that was, that's like not happening.
Yeah, okay.
And like you were saying, there's, I don't think I particularly went out of my way to speak all the time in Spanish. When you're in hostels, you're going to meet people from all over, and English is the common denominator. Like the German people have English, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And so you do end up speaking a lot of English while you're traveling. And so I didn't think I went too far out of my way, but I did also put in effort to, if I was checking into a hostel, I'm going to use Spanish.
Yeah.
If I'm going to go to the ice cream shop or whatever, even if I can tell, even if they try and speak to me in English, when they realize my Spanish sucks or their English is better than my Spanish, I'll be like, no. Like, I'm trying to practice here.
Yeah, right, okay. Yeah.
So, yeah, rapid progress. And like you said, that's the immersion part. That's just being there, having it come in and...
Just accelerate it.
You have to learn it. After that, I just traveled and it got better and better. I was still practicing while I was there, in the sense of sitting down and studying, which is the way I need to practice. And I can get onto a couple of the ways I did it and things I did wrong and wish I'd done a bit more or had done less of. Yep. But I suppose over those next 11 months.
11 months.
I improved and got to a decent point, especially when for those last couple of months I was with Andrea in Argentina and we were speaking Spanish every day.
Yeah, okay.
Day.
Well, basically, because I know you got a couple of points there, and I guess the way I want to tease them out from you is, if you had to start again, if you just had either you were going to do a new language or if someone wanted to start a language again or whatnot, what are some of the things that you would do from the beginning, now knowing obviously through the path that you went through? What are some of the key things you'd go, these are the things that really were key for me to picking up the language?
I neglected grammar at the start. So when I was doing that PIMSLA program, there was speaking and you were getting feedback, but it was pretty much all in the present tense. So they weren't changing to other tenses.
Okay.
And I think now, especially now, it's hard. Like, if I was learning it for the first time, maybe it would be still more ideal the way I did it in not learning the grammar, because it's just so much info, like, just getting thrown at you. Yeah. Now, if I learned a new language right now, I would check up the grammar to see how it compares to English, because now I can compare like English, Spanish, and then I'd do Portuguese or Russian. But I would have done a bit more grammar, I think, and a bit more learning of how the tenses change in between Spanish, because it's actually quite easy with the sort of table of like who the person is speaking and which tense it is.
Do you know English, Kyrin?
No, I don't. But they have like two different past tenses: the conditional and the future, and the present. So that's sort of 5 main ones. And then we'll get stuck in the weeds if we keep talking about that.
Yeah, no, yep.
I wish I had. So at the start, I did a lot of listening. I did a lot of writing, but not much of the reading, which is probably one of the easier parts.
Yeah.
And not much of the speaking. It would have been nice, but it would have been also hard to find someone. Obviously, I could have talked with you, but I wasn't super serious back then, so I would have been wasting your time a little bit. Even now, we don't really talk Spanish because you speak just a little bit too fast, your voice is a little bit too deep for me. So, we tried it for a month or two when I came back, but it was like, maybe when I get to a little bit of a higher level, we'll be able to do it a
full
lot
converse,
more. And I suppose the main problem was we were mostly speaking while doing workouts. So I'm like completely like focused over here.
Yeah,
I'll do a set, the convo will stop for a bit. It's not like we got into a real flow of back
of a
and
conversation for it. Yeah.
Yep. No, I think those are the main little ones.
Yep.
But yeah, the main thing was actually proving to myself that I was serious by going there. So
yeah.
And then just straight up time. You just got to put
time for it. Yeah.
It's not. It's not. I don't have the magic 30-minute learn a language.
Yeah. I don't really think that exists, and that's why I was trying to differentiate the fact that people can say that you can learn or know a language in 30 minutes. Like, sure, yes, you can, and I'll go into something in a minute. Or you can kind of do that, but
you like the magic formula.
No, well, but knowing a language and learning it to speak it it takes time. There is ways that you can fast track it in terms of just being able to be focused and immersed and be able to pick up certain things.
Yeah,
but there is just intricacies that just take time to just be able to run through. And I guess one of the things, and I'll call it a success, and you kind of know this a little bit, is the attempt I did at the start of the year, where I took on a challenge of, okay, every week I'm going to learn a phrase, a common phrase. This, as we were talking about, that's the very first item when learning a language. I want to learn one phrase in 10 different languages.
Yep.
And my aim at the start of the year was, I'm going to do this for 52 weeks. So I'm going to learn in 10 languages, 52 phrases, common phrases, and
that would be straight rote memorization.
Yeah.
That
would be just memorizing all these different phrases because I wouldn't be using them all the time.
Exactly.
It would just be I had to recall them. And I lasted 3 weeks.
Yeah.
2 weeks I did it quite straightforward. The third week, at that point, I was just failing to remember the first week. Yeah. And only now, it's been 10 months. I can sort of recall maybe 80% of what I learned.
Okay. Yeah,
but
that's still pretty good.
But it's not, but I mean, that's out of 30 phrases.
Yeah.
In 10 different languages. It's not exactly knowing a language nor a conversational thing. But,
no.
Some people could, you could, if you pushed on, you could do 52 phrases and you could speak it.
Yeah.
And that could be termed as, knowing a language.
Yeah.
But that's nothing compared to actually conversing in the language.
No,
so I could say, Privet меня зовут Juan.
Yeah.
Russian for hello, name's Juan.
Yeah. And then they're like, that's a pretty gay name, Juan.
Yeah.
And then your next phrase is like, I agree entirely with you.
Yes. I'll be like, yes. And that's it. That's what the conversation ends. But where else? That is not the approach you should take for trying to converse in a new language. If you want to know phrases, that's a good way. But I would have said being specific on one language is the way to go forward and learn it that way.
Yeah.
I guess
once you have, I think, more languages, you can probably do a little bit more interplay with them because you'll start to see like, oh, okay, this sort of has the pronunciation of French, but it's got the structure of Swahili. I'm just trying to think like,
what is the structure? The structure of Swahili. Swahili as in like, that's Swahili, right?
Yeah, but with the French pronunciation, so it'd be like
oui. Yeah, I don't even know. That's not the language you make. We've just made up the new Mere Mortals language. That's how we'll be speaking from the next couple of episodes. But then another one of my sort of failure, I guess. It was just another example of how you can lose it. There was a time when me and the family were learning French for the possibility of actually moving to France for a little
really?
while. Yeah. So I guess the reason we started learning French was there was a possibility we were going to move to France.
Yeah.
And we learned it for about 2 months. We had actually a tutor that came to the house every, I think it was once a week.
Yeah.
And we would do a good hour session.
Yeah.
And it was, again, through common phrases, common words, and then getting really quickly into conversations.
Yeah.
By the tail end of it, we were doing, sort of play-alongs where you literally would only be talking French, and it'd be, as an example, we'd be at a restaurant and we were trying to order fish and chicken and having to pay for the bill and stuff. And we were doing that all in French. So we were getting to that level. So we were able to obviously with the pauses.
Yeah, for sure.
But we were getting to that level. And after that, we didn't eventuate to go to France. We ended up just sort of, we tried to speak it a little bit, but then we sort of let it go on the wayside. And now all that I can recall is it's like route information of just the common phrases. That's sort of all I can remember. There's some bits and pieces from chicken or fish or, money and numbers.
Yeah.
But I've lost completely the conversational aspect of it.
Yeah.
I reckon if I was to do it again, I might be able to pick it up quickly. But because I didn't keep myself being immersed in it, it just got lost really quickly.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of, for you, do you reckon if you were to stop doing any Spanish for, say, 6 months?
It would decline. I've sort of stopped, not stopped, but I've stopped not entirely, but I've stopped my writing and the reading.
Yep.
So after I came back, so I've been back, like half a year now,
I
suppose.
6 months.
And I was still really, really pressing to learn.
Mm-hmm.
So I was doing basically an hour, around about 2 hours every day.
Yep.
So an hour of that was just straight listening to a podcast. And then an hour of that was sitting down with a book. And I started off with probably one of the... I think it was the second Spanish book I've probably read.
Yeah.
Which was El Coronel No Tiene Quien Escribe. By Gabriel Garcia Marquez, a Colombian writer.
Yep.
And yeah, it's just a super... He has a very flowery language. And
it is
it's not...
The comparison would be like reading Moby Dick.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're trying to learn English and you're reading Moby Dick, and you kind of just be like,
I mean, that would
what is happening?
I'd love to see that. I would love to see someone read
I reckon
come to Australia.
Even in Drea reading Moby Dick would be a little bit like,
probably
what is happening here?
I've read.
I've read Moby Dick, and I'd be like, what's going on here?
Yeah. Look, especially if you read something like Henry David Thoreau, Walden.
Yep.
It's just written in that really dense, 18th, 19th century English, and it's just
you gotta take pause at every sort of sentence to be like, what have I just read here? What does it actually entail?
Yeah, for sure. So I was doing that, and just this past month, I've Andrea's come. We've been setting up the house, painting the house, doing all sorts of things.
Yep.
So I've neglected that, and I can already tell that I've taken a hit. And she was actually saying when she came here that my fluency, because I haven't been speaking Spanish, only a little bit, once a week with your mum,
had declined slightly.
Yeah. But because I was learning so much, my vocabulary is way higher than it used to be. But even just this past month, I can tell it's sort of taken a little bit of a dip. So I'm going to try and get back into that section of doing it.
And I think people have to realize that when it is a non, born with language, where you kind of just retain a lot of that beyond just because you're malleable at that point in your brain, you're picking those things up and it just sits there. When you're learning new languages, if you're not keeping them active, they're gonna retract down to their sort of commonalities. So it's gonna be your common phrases and that sort of thing that you're gonna remember.
For sure.
But there's those conversational pieces that just start going down, just like anything else.
It's just anything. Try and remember half of the stuff that was in your chemistry class in high school.
Yeah.
We barely learnt anyway. You were running under desks and setting things on fire.
Setting things on fire in the Bunsen burner and locking the teacher outside.
Oh, poor Mr.
So, to me, I think...
Yeah, so I wanted to get your... So, we've heard my story. What's your story of learning English?
Yeah, so, and I think... I guess the difference for me was coming from, again, a Spanish-speaking background
Yep.
into English, and at the time that when we came into Australia was in 2001,
Yeah.
end of 2001.
So you would have been around 9-ish.
9 years old, yeah, and so...
So you would have had Spanish down, basically.
Oh, yeah. Well, and again, because like when we speak Spanish, even when I can speak Spanish, but it's only to a certain level as well, because obviously I didn't have Spanish all the way till I was older.
Yeah.
So for me to pick up English, I think I was still young enough that picking English was like if I was learning it through a childhood experience, I was able to speak it and understand it.
Yeah.
But I can recall still that it took a lot of time. Like I think it's probably because still it was young. I can't really pinpoint the moment that I went from knowing enough English that I could have that conversation.
Yeah.
But I can still recall there was times, because we originally moved to Sydney, I can still recall times when I'd be sitting on the bench at like lunch breaks.
Yeah.
And like I still wouldn't know how to talk English.
Yeah.
So I would have to just sit and eat some food and watch people play. Like I remember watching someone like playing cricket, like a couple of kids playing cricket.
Yeah.
And one, I had no idea what the hell they
you're
were
still
actually
thinking,
doing.
like, what is this
I was like,
dumbass
why?
thing
I was like, what? Someone throwing a ball at a stick? Like, what's happening? Where's soccer ball? So there was that. But then at the same time, I just like I had no idea how to converse. I was like, what's going on? At that point, we were learning English, but again, it was just like I was picking up words, phrases, lonely little things.
And you're already behind like the other kids as well. So it's
exactly. And I think it didn't really pick up until we moved up to Brisbane, where I knew at that point phrases and commonalities, and I could speak.
Yeah.
But it was still very stunted. I still had to like more listen than speak a lot of times.
Yeah.
But then I ended up making like some friends there. And then I think that's what sort of sprung me from being just like, I'm not sure what's going on, to just talking to them outside of school as well. And then started picking up that. And I think it probably took till, I'm trying to think what that would be, maybe year 5 or year 6, where I ended up finding that reading in English was actually a strong point. I ended up being able to figure out that reading is actually a really, really strong point.
Yeah.
To the point that, and I was reading, like compared to my speed now, I was reading books like there was no tomorrow back in the day.
Yeah, for sure.
So then my English picked up really, really quickly.
Yeah.
Not so much maybe the conversational side of things, but the actual details and verbs and commonalities, that picked up ginormously, I think.
And you got a story about the dictionary?
Oh yes, So so back in Sydney. This was back in Sydney.
Yeah.
I recall that we would go to a class after school.
Yeah.
I don't even know what they would name it or whatever,
Yeah.
but I can recall that they would give you the dictionary to read so you could actually pick up more English. It was just the weakest piss. Don't learn a language like that. Don't learn it like that.
Everyone else is reading Harry Potter and Paul.
I'm reading some dictionary. I'm reading a bit of a dictionary. But when I guess I think I really picked it up with the fact that I started reading so much English, and I was reading as well things that interested me. At the time was like science, space. There was other books in there as well.
Classic childhood books,
classic,
spy books and stuff like that.
Yeah, but those books I was just demolishing. I think there was a time, obviously a little bit later, I remember reading a Harry Potter book when it came out. That whole day, like that day, I read a Harry Potter book, and that was like 400 pages, something like that. I was like, just ridiculous. But that's obviously slowed down now. But I reckon I would read a lot more if I had the time for it or I invested into it.
Yeah.
But I think that then shifted me into then being comfortable to converse and then going beyond that. So I think if you're learning a language and you're young, I would actually recommend keeping them on the reading path. So I mean, if someone's listening and they've got a kid, or they're young and if you're still young, I would probably say just like try and read as much as possible that you can understand and read to pick up that side of the business, and then let that lead on into conversational. But nothing replaces immersing yourself and conversing to learn to converse. If you want to learn how to do something really well, do that thing heaps, fail at it heaps, learn from it and go from there.
And so how do you feel with your Spanish? Because you really only speak Spanish at home, and even then only really with your mum.
Yeah. I would say that.
Do you feel it's like, I don't know, you've lost any of it at any point?
Definitely the only bit that I've lost is I couldn't write grammatically correct Spanish. There's no way. There's no way. I can write phonetically, but there's actual little things in grammatically how you'd write and
Yeah,
stuff.
for sure. Yeah.
Structuring of sentences, no way.
They use commas where we use
More like, there's
punctuation.
the alphabet in Spanish. It's got 2 extra letters, but there's other things because they use can't even remember the name of these things. So they're little ticks and dots that go above
the
letters.
tilde.
Yeah, tilde.
Yeah.
So they use that as well. I have no idea when that is actually. And there's tilde and there's upside down tilde.
Yeah,
I have no idea when those things set up. So no way, grammatically lost it all.
Yeah, and some of them are just straight up memorization. You have to know, like you can sort of tell sometimes because when you say the word, it's got the emphasis on the first part.
Yep.
Because it's normally always the emphasis towards the end. Reflauta.
Reflauta.
No, I don't think that actually has a tilde.
No.
But
yeah, no. So I think
like that.
so. There's that side of things that I've lost. Conversationally wise, though, I can probably understand. I reckon 99%. Like 99% of the time, I can understand anyone speaking Spanish. There'll be 1% of the time when words are being used, especially if it was a business oriented. If it was a business oriented Spanish,
that would be
difficult.
story.
That would be difficult. Or like obviously, if you're going up to the higher levels, you're talking about particle physics in Spanish.
Yeah.
I would have to step back and go, hold on a moment.
It's not something you normally do in English, so
doing
that in Spanish. As well.
But
it'll actually be interesting when you go to Colombia next, because you haven't been for 10 years, you were saying.
Yeah.
So
plus.
when you go and speaking with them, I think that'll be really interesting for you. I think
but I think I'll pick it up really quickly.
Oh, very super quick.
Yeah, all of a sudden I'll be speaking after like 2 days, and it'll just be this is complete flow. It's totally fine.
Yeah.
So and then speaking from my perspective, I think from Spanish. Again, there's only those certain words or higher level discussions I'll go, I don't actually know how to actually speak this. But anything below that is completely fine, especially when you're more with individuals who you're also familiar with. Like, so if I've never spoken with my family or my sister and not known like words or how to progress a conversation, like it's already there. So I think I was old enough to know enough Spanish that it's always going to be there with me now. But say for my sister, when she came over and she was 4.
Yeah, so
4 years old.
She really learned
so
English first.
So she knows Spanish,
but
she does struggle a whole lot more than I do. So if we were to speak full Spanish discussion, you would almost be conversationally outpacing us sometimes. In some regards, but she would still obviously as a
destroy me.
As a normal in a normal conversation, she would probably still, but once you got a little bit high into particular words or particular discussions, she has lost it now at being that sort of age.
Yeah, and I remember your mum saying like a lot of times she'll speak to her in Spanish
and she'll reply in English.
Yeah, that's interesting. I actually wanted to ask you to take your Spanish to the next level. Like, what would you do? Do you think?
Ooh. I think, given the circumstances, I would probably, obviously speaking to my family, I'd be just pure Spanish because, again, sometimes we speak English just because it's easier. Yeah. Just pure Spanish. And I would probably, if I really wanted to get it better, I would probably go and do more reading. Yeah, it would be more reading. I would read in Spanish and listen to Spanish things.
Yeah,
so if I really wanted to, I want to up the ante and actually get a lot more battered down and know some specifics. Yeah. I would read more.
We've already established I can speak neither very well.
Yeah, so might as well start here as well. So I'd probably say it's actually the reading or the listening.
Okay.
One, because the listening is just easy. I can do it wherever.
Yeah.
But reading, I'm reading as much book as I can at the moment. I would probably just get a Spanish book and reading that. Sure. I would then read it and probably be reading it in my mind as well in Spanish and sort of picking that up as well.
Yeah.
And then just help connect all that back up.
Yeah. Another question: do you think and dream in Spanish, or is it?
I don't dream in Spanish, but then again, I don't dream much.
Yeah.
And we've had this conversation because I just barely. I can't.
Yeah.
It's probably more so that I don't remember dreams. Like I can remember last night's dream.
Yeah. Anything cool happen?
Oh, not really. That it was cool, but I don't know. It was weird. I got shot in the stomach, but I didn't feel it.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, cool. And then I had to walk back through the beach to get to like a hospital or something.
Yeah.
There's something weird like that.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why I specifically remember that one too. I was like, what?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I don't think I've dreamed in Spanish before. Not that I can remember. But I do think in Spanish sometimes.
Okay.
Particularly numbers.
Yeah.
So sometimes with counting, I'll count in numbers.
Yeah.
I'll count numbers in Spanish as opposed to English in my
Yeah.
mind. So I'll try to think of like 1, 2, 3, uno,
Yeah.
dos, tres, cuatro, whatever, 10, 20. That sometimes happens in Spanish.
Yeah.
But other words, no, not really.
Okay. Yeah. See, I've sort of listed down like to get it to a higher level. One of the things I consciously did was try to think in Spanish. So usually I do that when I was going for a workout because I'm going to be on my own, so I don't need to communicate with people and whatnot. And like you said, just using the numbers when I'm doing sets, I'd always count. I'd probably only get to about 3.
Yeah.
Those big numbers are scaring me.
Big numbers, pull-ups get to 2.
I just stopped doing pull-ups until I can think of like, what's the number for 3 in
Someone's
Spanish?
going to ask you like, how high can you count in Spanish? You're like, 2. I just can't get any more pull-ups than that. No, your name's not mentioned.
Yeah. So I would do that, and then in between sets, I'd try and think like just purely think in Spanish, and it's a weird thing to try and do.
Yep.
Because you have to. I've noticed I'd get like a lot dumber. Like I just wouldn't be able to go into like certain directions, which was interesting because you're sort of limited to a point of just like a barrier in your mind where it's like normally you'd probably like you're thinking of what you're going to cook, and you're like, all right, I'm going to get these ingredients and then I'll put it in this pot, and then wait, after this I need to do this, and like you'll get to the ingredient stage and then like you won't think further than that. So that's a interesting experience. And a couple of times I've had dreams where I've spoken Spanish, but I've never dreamt in Spanish. So the whole context of the dream is not like being narrated by like I'm not the narrator.
Someone's gonna have to put a comment for us on how to learn English. Someone's gonna have to.
But I have talked in Spanish in my dreams, and people have talked to me in Spanish. So it's like
interesting.
Not really thinking in it, but it's been included in the dream, and that's. Sometimes it'll happen more often, and sometimes it'll just go away completely.
Yeah,
I don't think I've had one for a while.
I think it's hard to control the dream one particularly, right? That's just it. Just might happen if you just being more intertwined with the language, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. A couple of other things I had was so for the reading, and I'm just going to list some of the stuff that worked for me and didn't work for me.
Yep.
A lot of people recommend like having little placards. So you write one word, so boat, in English, and then on the opposite side you have it in Spanish.
Yep.
And so you see the English, and you have to try and guess what it is, and then you just flip it over and look.
Yep.
So that's really good for like, you can get a stack of cards and then just go through them, and you can take them places with you and do it during the day.
Yeah. And that's how I recall being taught Japanese in school.
Yeah,
to do like she had long hair and all those sort of things. That was the same sort of structure.
Yeah, so that's a lot of people do that. Me personally, I didn't really need it. I had a Spanish dict on my phone, which was very good for you just type it in and you can do that. So you don't need to carry around like bulk things.
Yep.
Books, as we've talked about plenty, and you can do online reading as well. Just type in like the news in Spanish or something, and you'll find it.
Yep.
Writing, I found it really useful for me, things get cemented in my mind when I write. So I would have like 3 columns in a book. One I'd use English, 2 side ones would be for Spanish.
Yep.
And I'd sort of translate it directly. Usually it was just like a verb. And the problem with a lot of these things is they'll have multiple translations.
Yeah, yep.
So like, boat could be barco or
bote.
Bote velero, I think it's like sailboat.
Yep.
And so you can have multiple things. So I'd usually just try and pick one of them, like the most common, and go from that.
Go from that one.
And then in the back of the book, I'd use it in a sentence. And so then I'd sort of like be filling up the book going inwards,
Right.
With just single words and then sentences. And I know for sure, like, if you looked at those sentences, probably only like 10% are structurally correct.
Correct.
But it's readable enough that you'd be like, okay, this guy's got like level 90 IQ. So it's readable. Listening, podcasts. A lot of people love music and movies. Me personally, I just haven't really gotten into that much. Especially with I just find them distracting because there's so much else going on. In them. But yeah, podcasts and like audio, like Pimsleur.
I mean, you were saying music. I wouldn't recommend people to learn say Spanish listening to Daddy Yankee song.
Well, that's it. We've put on music sometime, and
I'm like, what are they saying?
A couple of people are right, like Juan is a Colombian guy. He's got it's fairly clear, but even then, like, I struggle. I really struggle. And then speaking, great. That's one thing I loved about the Pimsleur program was you can speak out loud.
Yeah, like actually vocalize what you're trying to say.
Yeah. I met there was this one guy in Colombia who he probably had my level of Spanish, but with no pronunciation. So he was speaking, and I'm listening to it, and it's just cringeworthy. It's like, damn, dude, you put in so much effort, but you didn't do like the pronunciation, which is super easy.
Yeah. So he was saying, like, say for car, which is carro, he might be like
Carro. Yeah. Super American.
Yeah.
Like just the perfect typical American that you can imagine. Like
it kind of sounded like he didn't actually know Spanish. He was just putting like a twang to
everything
to like everything. The way he would speak English would be like caro table.
Yeah, it was terrible, but funny at the same time as well.
Yeah, that's it's not good.
Have you ever learnt with a teacher? You said you did with French. Did you find that good? Do you find the teacher dynamic?
I think it did because it the immersion perspective helped out.
Yeah.
Like I've tried with the videos and through reading and stuff like that, and it's good. Having it with an extra person because one, they can speak, the particular language that you're trying to learn. It just helps with that immersion.
Yeah.
Two, you're paying for it. So you're also invested into the fact. Yeah, so you're invested into it. So you kind of like, okay, let's do as much as possible.
Yeah.
And then they kind of keep you in that sort of straight and narrow. So sometimes people will get a personal trainer, not so much because you need a personal trainer, but because you accountability to it. So that person helps you be accountable and go, no, you got to just speak French for the next hour.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Because you might not do that on your own if you're, annoyed by it, or struggling or whatever. And you'll just be like, oh, I'll just check what it is.
Yeah.
They'll try and keep you to, learn from that regard. So I think it does work out, but I would only say that it would be I would only go down that path if you're really getting serious about doing it in a short time, and there's no other way for you to get immersion.
Yeah.
Sort of availability.
Yeah.
I mean, for how much we paid for this individual to come and teach us for whatever it was, 2 months.
Yeah.
I could have gotten a flight to France and been in France for a while and then come back. So
yeah, for sure. They're expensive. The one and only time I tried was in Guatemala, and in Guatemala they had dirt cheap. You can get, I think they're like $5 an hour.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Or was it that much? Or it was around that. It was just
something ridiculously
super cheap. And so I did it there for a bit, and I just got bored, man. I was like, I don't care. And the way I learn is I really dislike people telling me what to do, because there's always a structure that you need to follow.
Yep.
And so I've always had, apart from school, like I was good at school, but then after that,
after your IQ hit 90, that was
yeah. But like even uni, for example, I stopped going to lectures because I didn't learn much in lectures.
Yeah.
And I just used that time to study online. On the Blackboard or whatever. And that's one thing, like you were saying, really focus on reading. There's going to be people who struggle to learn that way, and so I would say just try out all the different ways, and then focus on what you enjoy the most, what you're doing the most of, and go that route.
Yeah, it's just like how everyone is, it depends what type of learner you are. You can be a visual learner, you can be a, like a note learner, just there's various ways. So, you got to figure out what obviously works best for you in that regard. But, I still think reading and then going down that path, if you know the language, is probably the right way. And if you're just trying to learn it brand new, completely, just going in all in, just try and be immerse yourself as possible, try to have conversations, get the pronunciations going, going as much as possible.
For sure. The one last thing was you actually do need to have a bit of bravery in doing it as well, because you're going to make an ass out of yourself. Like,
just even me saying the French piece this earlier, as you saw, I was practicing with Andrea, and I was saying it wrong already, pronouncing it, even though I've done some learning for it. So you've got to be completely aware of the fact that you are going to say it wrong. Like, there won't be many people in the world who is going to pick up a language and know it straight away and say it perfectly. Like, there's going to be difficulties into it. So I think you do have to be brave to be like, I'm going to get this wrong at least 99% of the time until, 3 months or 6 months. And then that'll just decrease to 80%. And then I'll only be wrong 60% or something like that. And you got to be, good with the fact that that's going to be a common occurrence.
And I really want to do a podcast on sort of like overcoming fear or something like that. So we'll leave that for another one. But I'll give you two quick stories of the biggest times I made an ass out of myself. 3 actually. First one was when I first arrived, and I saw there was a university called Universidad Católica, which is like the Catholic University. And I thought it was Catalina for some reason. And so I was trying to communicate this to a Venezuelan guy who was in Chile, and like he just laughed his ass off at me. And I'm like, I'm pretty funny, but why is this so funny? And he managed to eventually tell me that Catalina in like Venezuelan Spanish means cupcake. And so I was talking about like the cupcake university, and he just found that super funny. The second time was in Argentina. I was talking to a girl, and it was a real simple story, and I was trying to use my past tense. And so I was saying like, I went to the park and there was a bunch of birds there. And so I had some bread and stuff, so I was feeding the birds, and now we're like best friends, and like, I spent so much time with the birds. Oh man, we're amazing time. And the word for bird in Spanish is pájaro, and I was saying pajero, and pajero means masturbator. So I was telling her the story about how I was going to the park, there's all these masturbators there, spent time, I was feeding the masturbators, now we're best friends and stuff. She was laughing her ass off. So I eventually figured out like
Kyrin's like, man, I'm like comedian over here. You're like, what's going on? I'm just telling people stories and everyone's laughing.
Spanish, and I'm just killing it. And then the last one, and this is probably the most embarrassing, was this was a good year into it. And I was writing an email. I'd been writing a bunch of emails, just, contacting different hostels, speaking to people, whatever. And I'd always sign off with ciao. And I was spelling it C-I-A-O, like Italian ciao. And so I'm speaking this rubbish Spanish in the email, and then I sign off with like Italian. And they must have just been like, what is wrong with this dickhead? Trying to like, what, he thinks he's fancy or something? And that took me a full year. And even then, that was just a one-off when Andrea saw me sending it. She's like, why are you writing it like that?
Oh, man.
And so then I was like, shit.
But I think it does go back to the point, right? You got to be brave to the point that...
Exactly. You got to make those mistakes.
That is, even though you're saying that'll happen to absolutely everybody. There'll be stories of everyone, having some sort of funny things around that. I think...
and most of the time they're pretty funny. Like, those are good stories now. Like, I can tell them to people and they're like, haha,
oh, yeah,
you're an idiot.
Like, my mum's got a good one of her mum. This is obviously like 40 years ago, but she went to the US... Yep. And she stepped on a lady's foot as they were walking around. The lady got like angry.
Yeah.
And so my mum's mum just said to her, like, instead of saying like sorry, she said, and like obviously there's like barely any words. She actually just said thank you.
Thank you. Nice.
And the lady apparently got like angry and she didn't know why. But
Yeah.
you're gonna get stuff like that. Like it just happens.
Exactly.
So there's a reason why there's so many stories around that. So.
Yeah.
There you go. Learning a new language. Is there any other final points you want to touch on them? I've got most of the points I want to talk about.
I've hit my stuff.
Easy. Very good. Well, hopefully that's some takeaways there for people. I'll run them through just quickly. General methods. Immerse yourself in the new language. Study the language every day. Watch, listen, read, and write in the chosen language.
Yep.
And visit the country where your chosen language is spoken. And specifically, learn the common phrases, numbers, common phrases. Take on sort of 100 common words to start bolstering that, and then start working through those pronunciations of those extensive words and common phrases.
Yeah, so. And then you just got to put in the time.
Yeah,
it's one of those ones. It's
you only get out as much as you put in.
Exactly, exactly.
Now,
cool. Now for the fun part.
So, if you are looking at the video right now, there is a scoreboard up. If you don't know what we were talking about around our yearly challenge, go back and listen to episode 6. We talked about it at the very end of it.
Yep.
Right now, Juan is sitting on a crispy 3 out of 100 points.
Down. It's nice. We've only been in, 14 days now? So I'd say that's probably about on track.
Exactly, yeah. And Kyrin, we'll see what we're up to right now. And Kyrin's up to...
I'm on 2 points.
Two. Spelled T-W-O, not T-O, not T-O-O. And...
a solid 2.
So, who's going to write it first? So, first of all, we're going to wipe that out because mine is higher. Mine is higher than the 3.
Decide. So this will be the ending off. So if people don't enjoy hearing about our fitness, now's the time to sign off.
Yeah.
Go to the next episode. But...
so let's go. Who's going to be... I reckon scissors, paper, rock for who goes first to showcase it. All right. Scissors, paper, rock. Scissors, paper, rock. Oh. All right. So, do I want to go first?
I lost. So one.
So I'll go first. So, from 3 points, coming in, felt loose. Took a couple of days off.
He took a couple of days off.
But
so
I'm
expecting another 3. Damn.
7 points, ladies and gentlemen. 7 points. Of the ones that I got this week around, I got my muscle ups.
Yeah,
points.
I was there to witness that.
I got my snatch over 85 kilos for 1 rep. And there was the squat one from the last Sunday.
Yeah.
I think that was already in there. But it was a double pointer, so I hadn't summed it up correctly. So, yeah.
Nice. Alrighty.
So
I'll be drawing. What's this going to turn into on?
It's a 4! It's a 4! Kyrin Michael down.
I'm slow and steady.
Yeah, slow and steady wins the race.
Yeah.
In your case, though, losers, but
Got a whole year, man.
Yeah, whole year. Okay. And what were the other ones that got you up a couple of points?
So I did my L-sits for 40 seconds.
Nice.
Which was a 1-pointer. And I did just today my squats, which...
No, not squats. Deadlifts. Yes.
That might have been a 2-pointer.
Oh,
so
you need to confirm this. We need to confirm this.
Yeah,
okay, so 4/5. Okay, hold on.
Yes.
Oh, it's a double point.
Oh,
it's a 5. It's a 5. It's a 5. It's a
brilliant.
It's a 5.
Excellent.
Dang. Now I want to just put it out there. If someone listening to this, we haven't actually vocalized what some of these challenges are, but I'm going to share with you the rowing challenge.
Yeah.
And if anybody can get these, I want you to message me, talk to me,
tell them
do whatever if you can actually do this, because you would be. I applaud you if you get any of this. So our current challenge for rowing is 100 meters in 15.4 seconds.
15.3. So we got these times from a website which has like, I guess, sort of semi-professional and amateur
levels
time levels in it, and you can sort it by percentile. And so I went through that once and was like, all right, I want to be 10th percentile in rowing. And so these are the times you need to equal or beat.
Yeah.
To be in the top 10% of rowers
worldwide
who put this.
Who put these stats in?
If you're putting your stats in, you're fairly
already,
I guess.
So you're already high enough. So it'd probably be really.
You'd also get people like amateurs and different. And so this was the 10th percentile of heavyweight rowers. So people who weighed like 80 kilos or more.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So for people playing at home, if you want to take on any of these challenges, give it a go. If you can actually do them, dang.
Yep.
100 meters, 15.3 seconds to lower.
Nice.
250 meter row, under 40 seconds.
Yep.
500 meter row, under 1 minute 26. And a 1K row, under 3 minutes 13. If you can do that,
Yep.
Kudos. God damn, because we have tried the 100 meters so many times and failed so many times. I think the closest has been Kyrin.
I got
16.7 seconds one day. I'm still at the 17s. Still not getting any lower.
I hit 17.3 today.
And we've attempted to hit 500 meters and not even gotten to the 500 meters at the speed that we're trying to get there. So
yeah,
so it's,
I think my closest has been the 500 meters. I think I was only
you were
7
a couple of seconds
off
away.
that.
So
and that was like midway through a workout. So that's,
who knows? Once we start putting a bit of more effort there, we'll see. But for now,
I think we'll see gains in it over the year, though. Like, you know, if we're consistently doing the rowing, and I want to start looking at some videos, looking at proper form and technique, how to get that wattage and power up.
We'll move in there. So, but for now, I'm matching the episodes numbers 7. Unfortunately, Kyrin.
All right. Well, that's a challenge for me.
Yeah.
I'm going to match it.
Match up for 8. Very good. All right. Well, that's all I've got.
Yeah. Excellent. All right. Kyrin out.
Juan out.